going on inside? How are we doing tonight? Sounds a little weak. How are we doing tonight, people? There we go. Awesome. Well, if I've not gotten the chance to meet you or talk to you before, my name is Jaxon. I'm a senior at Vista Ridge, and I'm super excited, actually, more than usual, to be up here tonight with y'all. I'll get to why that is here in a second, but like Jordan said, we're going to be diving into part 3 of this series that we've been in called Imagine If. And now, before we get started, before we get going with our time here tonight, I actually heard that there was a birthday in the crowd. The reason why I heard it is because I actually live with her, because she's the biggest pain in the butt that I have in my life, and it's this girl right up here. This is Jordan. That is my sister. She is turning 16, so stay off the roads, guys. Just kidding. I have no credibility to talk about driving. Anyways, but it is her birthday today. If you have no idea who she is, what she looks like, if you just look for that girl right there, you will find her in the crowd. I promise you. She's in here somewhere. But it is her 16th birthday. Just want to take the second to say happy birthday to her. She is probably super embarrassed, and yeah, but it doesn't matter. We can give her a round of applause. Awesome. Just wanted to say that it's her birthday today. That really has no idea, no point into where we're going today, because like I've said multiple times, we're diving into part 3 of this series that we've been in called Imagine If. And before we get started with our time here tonight, I want to bring up a specific number that's been very important into the stage of life that I'm in right now. And that number is 1. The number 1 has been very important in my life right now because the season of life that I'm in as of this instant, I have a lot of one more things I get to do in my life. For example, as of right now, I have 1 month left of school until I graduate and I go on to college. Seniors are pretty happy, pretty excited about that. I got 1 more month of school until I graduate and I go to Texas Tech next fall. So yeah, wreck 'em for those of you that are going or that are fans. So I'm pretty excited about that. Actually, as of right now, I have 1 more speeding ticket until my license gets suspended by the law. Just being real with y'all. That's a very long story. If y'all want to know that, I'll give you that story. But I got 1 more speeding ticket until my license gets suspended, so that's fun. I got 1 more round of AP tests coming up here pretty soon. It's a boo, but also a yay, because then I'm done and don't have to take another AP test for the rest of my life. So that's pretty fun. I have 1 more prom until I can't go to proms anymore, or don't really want to go to proms anymore, if I'm being more specific. I have 1 more Camp 75 as a captain until I move on to my next stage, which is pretty interesting. It's pretty cool. And the reason why I'm so excited to be up here and why I'm just so excited and so happy to be up here is because this is my last message as a student here at Inside Out, which it's sad and happy at the same time because I'm excited for what's coming, but I'm also sad because it's ending as me here as a student, but I've had so much fun here. And the one thing that I'm going to talk about tonight has probably been one of, if not the most important thing that I've learned when I've been in high school. When I was looking at my list of 1 mores, there were so many more that I probably could have added. Something that came to my mind was that my time in high school is coming to an end. I don't get to come back next year as a student. That would be kind of weird, but I don't get to come back next year as a student. My time in high school is done. And what I started to realize for myself, and ourselves included, is that our time is limited. We're guaranteed 4 years in high school, and that's it. We got to make the most of our 4 years, and then we're done, and we're off to our next stage in life. And the question that I was asking myself, and I want to ask y'all tonight, is that since our time is so limited and is so precious, what we do with our time is also so precious and also so limited. So I want to ask, what do you do with your time? I mean, we have so many things that we can do with our time, and what we choose to do with it is so valuable. So what do you do with your time? But I don't want to answer this myself. I actually want y'all to get y'all's own feedback on what y'all think or what y'all do with your time. So what I want y'all to do is I want you to turn to some people around you. If you have no idea who they are, introduce yourself. And I want y'all to talk about what y'all do with your time. So go ahead and start talking with somebody. What do y'all do with your time? Just talk about it. Awesome. What do I do? We'll find out. Got some good combos going on. Awesome. We'll bring those conversations to a halt right quick. Maybe, how many of y'all met somebody new, just out of curiosity? Anybody meet anybody new? Oh, we got 1, 2, 3 people. Met somebody new, maybe? I don't know. Awesome. All right, well, hey, do me a favor and start shouting out some of the things that y'all do with your time. Band. Wish I was musically talented. Did I hear fishing? Fishing? Do not have the patience for that. I wish I did my homework, but we'll write it on here anyways. Anybody else? Netflix, that's a beautiful one. Netflix. Sleep. I will put 2 exclamation points by that because I do that instead of doing my homework. Awesome. Eat. Chill. Awesome. These are good ones. Procrastinate. Procrastinate? Yeah, woo! Yeah, education. All right, one more. Video games. Awesome. Cool. I would agree with most of y'all here in this room. I probably do some of these things. I actually do most of all of these things. But there's also things that we have to do in life that are essential to us being humans. Like we said, we had eat here. That is very essential to us being humans because we cannot live if we don't eat. Sleep. We need sleep. As of some of y'all, maybe y'all think you don't need sleep, but we actually do need sleep. Another one, hopefully y'all do this. Freshman guys, maybe you don't, but bathe. We all have to bathe here in this room. Fun fact, I heard on the radio a couple years ago that Zac Efron actually cleans himself with baby wipes instead of taking a shower. Leave that up to interpretation, but that's what I heard. So hopefully we do this. These are some of the things that we do with our time. And these are things that we do with our time. Some of these things are essential to us being humans, to us living. But when you take a second and just sort of pause, and you start to look at this list, you tend to say that you maybe have a lot of things going on. Maybe there's some things on this list that are important in your life that you do that haven't been mentioned. But these are things that we do with our time. And these are things maybe some of us have to do with our time. But then when it comes to the things that we want to do with our time, maybe it just seems like there's not enough hours in the day or days in the week for us to do the things that we want to do in our lives. And if you don't believe me, I actually saw this really cool video in my captain's interview for me to be a captain for Camp 75. I saw this really cool video that actually broke down a lot of what our days and our lives would look like. And I want to show that to y'all. So take a look at this video.
These are roughly 28,835 jelly beans. I counted out 500 of them and used those to weigh the rest. In this pile, there's 1 jelly bean for each day that the average American will live. You might have more beans in your life, or maybe less, but on average, this is the time we have. Here's a single bean. It's your very first day. A special day, but kind of a rough day on everyone involved. Add 364 more and you have the first year of your life. Now, for a sense of scale, here are your first 15 years, 5,475 days, which brings us to the threshold of adulthood. And at that moment, this is the time that we have left. And this is, on average, what we will do with all that time. We will be asleep for a total of 8,477 days. If we're lucky, some of that time we'll be sleeping next to someone we love. We will be in the process of eating, drinking, or preparing food for 1,635 days. We'll be at work, hopefully doing something satisfying, for the equivalent of 3,202 of those days. 1,099 days will be spent commuting or traveling from one place to another, maybe a little bit more if you live in LA. On average, we will watch television in one form or another for a total of 2,676 days. Household activities, like chores and tending to our pets and shopping, will take another 1,576 days. And we will care for the needs and well-being of others, our friends and family, for 564 days. We'll spend 671 days bathing, grooming, and doing all other bathroom-related activities, and another 720 days will go to community activities, like religious and civic duties, charities, and taking classes. After we remove all those beans, this is what remains. This is the time that we have left. Time for laughing, swimming, making art, going on hikes, text messages, reading, checking Facebook, playing softball, maybe even teaching yourself how to play the guitar. So what are you going to do with this time? How much of it do you think you've already used up? If you only had half of it, what would you do differently? What about half of that? How much time have you already spent worrying instead of doing something that you love? What if you just had one more day? What are you going to do today?
I don't know how many of y'all can see this, but this is one of the days that we have left that we get to choose and we get to decide what we want to do with it. This is one of those days. What would you do if you had one day left? What would you do if you had 1 week left, 1 month left, 1 summer left? What would you do with the time that you have left in your life? What's so interesting is that in high school, and with high school and time, it's a very confusing topic. Because what starts to happen as over the course of the years, as a senior, I've started to experience this myself, is that you start to do a lot of the mundane things of life. You wake up, you eat breakfast, you go to school, you go home, maybe take a nap, you finally go back to bed, and you do everything all over again. Over and over and over again. That's how our days look. I don't know about y'all, if any of y'all could relate with that or any of y'all have felt that, but for me, it started to get very boring. It started to get not very fun. There's no motivation to do anything fun the next day. And with our time left, with the beings left that we have in our life, we have the choice to keep doing that. We have the choice to keep going back to that. We have the choice to keep doing the mundane things of life. Or the time that we have left, the precious time that we have left, we can choose to do something different, something impactful, something powerful with that. We have the choice to do that. Then the question that begs to be asked is then what should we do with the time that we have left? What's so interesting is that people for thousands and thousands and thousands of years have been talking about this topic of time and how precious and how valuable and how important time is in our lives. And in Scripture, there's so many verses and so many stories written about time. Actually, King David, a king in some prehistoric times, actually wrote about time. And this is what he said. He wrote a prayer. And he started off by saying this: teach us to number our days. What King David is practically saying here is that he's saying that time is important. Time is valuable. And we should number each and every single one of our days because our days are valuable. Our days are important. We shouldn't let a day go to waste. But then King David extends it and he says why we should number our days. And he says so that we may gain a heart of wisdom, a heart of passion, a heart of knowledge that we can take into our lives as we number our days. What's so cool is over 1,000 years later, Jesus arrives on the scene. And Jesus claimed to be the Son of God. So he could have literally talked and said anything about time. He could have said anything about time. He said, devote all of your time to Scripture, all of your time to me, and don't spend any time anywhere else. He could have said that because he claimed to be the Son of God, and he is the Son of God. And he could have said literally anything about time. But then Jesus tells us what we should do with our time. And this is what he says. He starts it off by saying this, is that my command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Maybe this is a verse that sounds familiar to you. Maybe you've heard it a different way. Maybe you grew up hearing this verse over and over and over again. And we tend to read this verse all the time. Okay, love each other as I have loved you. Love each other as I have loved you. Yeah, I get it, but what's the point, Jesus? The reality is that not many people actually read, myself included, not many people actually read the verse after it. Because what Jesus shows us, what he tells us is what we should do with our time. And this is what he said. Jesus continues and he says, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friend. When I first read this, I was like, whoa, Jesus, like, what are you talking about? And what Jesus is practically, what he's telling us here is that we gauge our lives by time. I think that's a very simple statement that maybe all of us can relate with. All of us know that we gauge our lives by time. We know a day is coming because the sun is rising. We know a day is ending because the sun is setting, right? We know that's how we count our days. And what Jesus is telling us here is that there's no better way to spend our life, no other way to spend the time that we have left than to love people with the time that we have left. That's what Jesus is saying. He's saying that we should not be spending any of our times, that the best thing that we should do with the time that we have left is that we should love people with the time that we have left. So imagine if, with me here for a second, that our time is actually limited. These are amount of days that we get in high school, or these are amount of days that we have in high school left until we're done, until we're out the doors and we're on to our next stage of life. And what we could be doing is that we could be taking our time, each of these little days, and we can be spending it doing the mundane things, going to school, eating, sleeping, repeating, doing the next day, and not really spending much time or thinking anything of it. We can keep doing those mundane things, and we have the choice to do that. But what Jesus is saying, he's saying, what if, just think about it with me here for a second. What if you chose to spend the rest of the time that you have left loving people, even though you maybe don't want to let go of those days at all. You really, 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 really don't want to let go of those days. Really, really, thank you. You really don't want to let go of those days. You spend the rest of the days that you have left loving the people around you. All right, yeah, I get that, but how can I practically do this? How can I love, with the time that I have left, how can I love the people around me? I think there's many different ways that you can do these, and these are only a few, and you may have some that are individual to yourself, but I think one of the ways that we can love the people around us with the time that we have left is by simply showing up for them. Showing up when they need us, when they get that call, that text, that conversation that none of us want to have. We need to show up for them and be there for them and love them in ways. And show up from whenever they don't need us, to hang out, to grab food, to grab coffee. Showing up for the people that they have in our lives, devoting and giving our time to them. I think one of the best ways that we can love people is by not talking bad about them. Not spending the time that we have left insulting and criticizing people to their face and behind their back. That's one of the most unloving things that we can honestly do. So what if we just chose not to talk bad about people, and that's the way that we loved others around us? What if we just simply celebrated others? What if we just took the time that we have left to celebrate and boost the people around us? Tell them that they're great and they're awesome and we're thankful for them, expressing our gratitude for the people that we love in our lives. What if we just chose to celebrate others with the time that we have left? What if we loved by serving people? What if we loved just by serving the people around us? And that's just not here at North Point. This is an awesome and incredible way to serve and love the people around us. But what if we went into the city of Austin to do that? There's thousands and thousands of organizations that we can go and we can be a part of and serve and love the people around us. Or maybe what if we just simply invited? We took the time, maybe stepped out of our own comfort zone and invited them to be part of something bigger themselves. Maybe that's camp. Maybe that's Inside Out. Maybe that's somewhere else. I don't really know where that is, but what would that look like for you, maybe to invite somebody to do that? The reason why I think this is so valuable and this is so great and so personal for me is just because of my own story and the way that I got here and the way that I became involved here at North Point. And because over the course of high school, over the course of 4 years, I've had many memories, many moments in my life. But a lot of them tend to blend together. But the ones that do stick out, the ones I can remember moment for moment, piece for piece, I can remember the surrounding air, I can remember the environment, either had to do with me loving somebody else loving me, or people loving each other. For me, a lot of the Friday nights blend together. All the Friday night lights tend to blend together. But do you know what I do remember? Do you know what conversation sticks out to me? The time I was invited to camp by my friend Sager. We were in Houston at a basketball tournament. We were having dinner there. Yeah, Sag. We were in Houston and we were at a basketball tournament and we were miserable and we just wanted to eat food and we were sitting there at this table and that was the moment that he invited me to camp. And I really didn't think much of it. I just thought it was a simple camp. And I came and I experienced some of the greatest life change I have ever experienced in my entire life. And the reason that is because Sager just chose a couple seconds out of his day. He didn't have to. He honestly didn't have to, but he chose to spend the time that he had left to choose to invite me to come to camp. One of the most loving things that you can do for another human being. And it has changed my life forever. What sticks out for me and what's a memory that sticks out for me is boot camp 2017. And it was the last day, and I was walking to breakfast after all the captains had just got done meeting. I was walking to breakfast. And I remember sitting down at breakfast, and I was stressed, and I was confused, and I was just sad, and I was tired that it was ending. And all of a sudden, my sister comes up to me, and she's crying. And I didn't know what she was crying for, so I took her outside, and I was like, Jordan, what's the matter? And she said, Jaxon, nothing's wrong. But I believe in God. I believe God sent Jesus to die on the cross for me, and I'm all in. I'm giving everything that I have, and I'm all in to this thing. I can remember everything about that moment to the point where a month later, I got the opportunity to baptize my sister. One of the most incredible moments I've ever got to experience in my entire life. It's one of the most loving moments I ever got to experience, and it's a moment that will always stick out for me. Another moment that tends to stick out for me was Camp 75 last year when I got to watch these teams, this team and multiple other different teams go and love a city and love people like they'd never been loved before. They chose to take the time that they had left and the time that they had left in their summer and come and love the homeless people, give them meals, maybe meals that they haven't had in weeks, and they got to be loved like they have never been loved before in their entire life. That's a moment that sticks out for me. I can remember the exact moment of me being here at North Point, walking down the halls of Upstreet, just right outside these doors, and watching these teams go crazy and stressing over making these sandwiches. Why? Because it was important to them. Because they knew that with the time that they had left, they wanted to love as many people as they could. And that moment sticks out for me. It's a moment that it's always going to be in my brain. I don't think I'll ever forget that picture. And guys, in the midst of all this, honestly, if I'm being honest, you can get a pretty amazing girlfriend. That's all I got to say, because I did. Just want to put that out there. Yeah, you can. It happens. So, but in all honesty, in all seriousness, I really, truly do believe that the moments that we spend loving people are the moments that we remember the most. That in reality, bottom line, that time is memorable and impactful when you are loving people. I really don't know how else to describe it to y'all, but there's some things about these moments that just stick, that they stick with you, that you remember them for the rest of your days. I don't really know why it is that way, but it just tends to be, that they stick out more than a Friday night lights. They stick out more than a homecoming or a prom because you were loving somebody or somebody was loving you, and it just had an impact on you that you really can't explain. So, what would it look like for you to take the time that you have left to go love the people around you? What would it seriously look like? What would it take for you to go do that? What would it take for you to go love the people around you with the time that you have left? I think one of the best ways that we can honestly discover that and talk about that is in the context of our small groups. But before we get there, I'm going to go ahead and love to pray for y'all. Heavenly Father, God, Lord, I just want to say thank you. I just want to pause and say thank you for a second. Thank you for some of the most amazing 4 years that you have given me in my life. And just some of the amazing, incredible memories that I've gotten to experience, and ultimately being a part of this place called Inside Out, where I've come and got to learn and got to love and got to be with all these amazing people sitting here in the room tonight. God, we know our time is valuable. We know our time is limited, and we're not guaranteed anything. So God, I pray that you just remind us with the time that we have left in high school, God, that we just make the most of it, that we go try to love as many people as we can, because that's what you've commanded us to do. And God, I pray that you just open up our eyes, you open up our hearts as to how we get to do this in our lives. Lord, we love you big, we need you big. It's in your son's name that we pray. Amen.